Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily on this Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for joining us each and every weekday morning here with the Center Square on YouTube, or you can get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just look for Illinois in Focus. And don't forget to get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for that newsletter, and you can join us each and every weekday morning here. All right, so a lot to tackle, especially with the legislature coming back into session today. And we're looking at a whole bunch of committee hearings this afternoon. We're going to be hearing a lot of news conferences and a variety of things. So we're going to do what we can today to preview a lot of what could come up this afternoon. So it's where you're going to get the information right here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Again, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily. And, take part in the live chat. That's pretty lively. So you can see that again at the YouTube page when we're live. A lot of activity already. People chiming in. Good morning to all of those who joined right at the start. Good to see those numbers up. So make it happen. All right. Get that subscription number up as well. And just stay informed. That's what we do here is a nonprofit newswire service at thecentersquare.com, where you can make a contribution to help us out to get the news out to not just you here in the mornings, but also through radio stations across the state and print publications throughout the state. The Center Square is all over the place. So be sure to take part in helping us out, and you can donate at thecentersquare.com. So coming up, we'll talk about a pretty controversial bill that's on the horizon. Won't be heard today, but will actually be heard tomorrow morning, about homeschooling and trying to regulate homeschooling. Well, the opposition is fierce and almost Goliath-like, while the proponent numbers are nowhere in comparison. So we'll get to that next here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily. $100-1 in opposition to the Illinois Homeschool Act ahead of a hearing set for Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock at the Capitol in Springfield. And that's just part of the opposition. Good morning, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. The Homeschool Act, filed by State Representative Tara Costa-Howard, and it is a measure that would essentially say that parents who homeschool their children will have to notify the local school district. If not, their kid could be truant. There would also be curriculum mandates and a variety of other things. people not too happy about this. Go to thecentersquare.com where you'll see the headline in the Illinois section about this very issue. 100-1 in opposition to Homeschool Act ahead of hearing, and you can read that story I put together for the Center Square. Let's just read through this. Nearly 4,000 opposition slips have been filed against a measure in Illinois regulating homeschool. This is before a committee. Now, there have actually been tens of thousands filed in opposition, and it's House Bill 2827, and it would essentially create the Homeschool Act and require parents to inform local school districts if they decide to homeschool their children. If not, children could be labeled truant, which brings a whole host of other problems. Now, proponents of the bill, they argue that it'll help ensure that kids are protected from potential harm, including making sure that they're receiving adequate schooling. One group in particular, the Coalition for Responsible Home Education, the executive director there said every child has a right to be safe, to learn, and to access resources. HB 2827 would protect those rights for children who are homeschooled in Illinois. That coalition went on to have a bullet point of things they say are why they need it. They say, for instance, there needs to be a record of the children's academic progress. They need to be able to learn from educated instructors and protect them from convicted sex offenders. They also say the measure streamlines the process for homeschooled children to take part in public school activities. One of my colleagues talked with State Representative LaShawn Ford, who shared that he's got a mountain of opposition in his district in Chicago, and this is a Democrat who says he's not going to support this measure as it stands now. From the constituents that I've gotten calls from, understanding why they don't like it, the loss of their autonomy to as a parent, that's a major concern, that they lose autonomy over their children, which is why they actually chose homeschooling. They want to have control over their children's education, including the curriculum, how they teach, and the philosophy. So this legislation imposes regulations that concern the parents. The burdensome of the paperwork. They have paperwork that they will have to do that they find to be could be a violation. I mean, this is what I'm hearing. It just adds to putting them in unnecessary, cumbersome, and bureaucracies. They have privacy concerns as well. So a lot of concerns that Ford raised, in particular, some of the other concerns were the curriculum, the philosophy, and so on. More from Representative Ford as to why he says he can't support this bill as it is now, partly because of the incredible large amount of opposition that his office has received. And we got to remember, there's a reason why parents, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, there's a reason why parents decided to take their kids out of traditional public schools and homeschool. And then you look at the part of the bill that talks about truancy, the penalties with truancy. That's a problem. Where parents might face penalties. That's a problem. So we don't want parents to face penalties. No different. I don't even think that parents face penalties too much if kids are not going to traditional schools and they're truant. But this puts these parents in a situation where we're putting in a law that they're going to be held to a higher standard than other parents that's not in a homeschool. Homeschool families obviously make that decision for their family for a myriad reasons, right? Maybe they don't like the quality of education at their public school. Maybe they have religious proclivities that they say they want to instill in their children for the 8 hours a day that they're going to be educating them. Maybe they don't like the various requirements of the health and the vaccinations and immunity requirements. parents that public schools require kids to get vaccinations, a pretty large schedule of vaccinations. Ford said that's something else that he's hearing a lot from parents who oppose the Homeschool Act. And go.
There are some things that we have to consider why people have chosen for homeschooling. I mean, there are some things in there for vaccinations, immunization, and health requirements. Some people don't like that. So they oppose the mandatory vaccination and health examinations for their kids for many reasons.
So Ford saying he's not going to support this as it stands now. He says that homeschool parents feel that they've been left out of the conversation in crafting this bill. But I want to show you the numbers of opposition now. When I wrote the story yesterday afternoon, I was looking at this particular page, my.ilga.gov. So this is where you can see information about upcoming committee hearings and such. But you can also look at the witness slips for these particular bills that are going to be heard. And you can see down here, it's got a tab for proponent, 56. So it was at about 36 yesterday when I had my story published. So now it's up to 56 people in support. But then you look at right next to it, opponent, 5,045. So this was just under 4,000 yesterday when I looked at it. So it's grown more than 1,000. So still practically a 100-to-1 opposition to the Homeschool Act. 100-to-1 opposition to proponents of the Homeschool Act. This is just for this hearing. This one hearing that's coming up tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock at the Illinois State House. A couple of weeks ago, or was it last week, you had homeschool families show up to the Capitol in droves. Cherry Pie Day. They delivered cherry pies to their legislators and told them they don't want the Homeschool Act. They want homeschool autonomy. So that's just for the upcoming hearing. If you look at the actual bill, go to ilga.gov and type in HB 2827. You'll be able to read the synopsis of the bill. Again, it talks about, requires the State Board of Education to create a homeschool declaration form to be used by a homeschool administrator to submit information indicating a child's enrolled in that particular program. Provides that a student enrolled in homeschool program in which the homeschool administrator has not notified the public school or school district with the homeschool declaration form is considered truant with penalties applying. Provides a bunch of other stuff as well. But you can look at the full text of the bill, which is written in legalese, but there's also this link, witness slips, where you can see who's opposed to it, who's filed publicly opposed to it, and who supports it. Let's click on that because this number is going to be much larger because this includes all of the witness slips, not just the witness slips for this upcoming 8 o'clock hearing Wednesday morning. So look at that. Proponents, 759 proponents, people who support it. The opponents, 33,633. 33,633. That's the number who oppose it to the number who support it, 759. Well, I've seen witness slips filed, I don't know if necessarily in this rate, but I've seen similar types of imbalances of large numbers of people who oppose something to the small number of people who support something. And it doesn't really seem to sway legislators for some reason. So the witness slips, yes, it's an exercise people do. It's a way they can interact with government, but sometimes those witness slips just don't seem to make much of a difference. So we'll be watching this hearing tomorrow at the State House, 8 o'clock. It's going to be early. So we're going to have to try to juggle the live show so I can get over to the State House to cover that. Maybe we produce something for you in the morning and get it out to you so that I can be on the ground in the morning to watch the homeschool situation unfold in that hearing. So that's just one measure that's coming up this week. It's going to be interesting to watch the proponents argue in the face of the what some may consider insurmountable opposition. But again, witness slips are witness slips. It's not necessarily something that's going to ultimately sway whether or not that legislation is going to pass. So could homeschoolers face new regulations in Illinois? And would that be something that causes people to say, I'm out, leaving the state? I guess we'll be watching and reporting. It is Illinois in Focus Daily here with the Center Square. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us here on YouTube each and every weekday morning. Get the newsletter in your inbox. Just go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for it there. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Several measures impacting the firearm owner ID card in Illinois could come up during a House Judiciary Committee today. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to wake up with us each and every weekday morning and get the podcast where you get podcasts. Get the headlines at thecentersquare.com. So the legislature comes back today. There's a noon time for both the House and the Senate to come into session. They'll gavel in, do some points of personal privilege, gavel out, and then go into committee hearings for all throughout the afternoon. Tons of committee hearings and a whole bunch of legislation that's going to be heard in the House. There seems to be about 3 times more amount of the legislation set to be heard in the House than in the Senate. Just on my cursory review this morning. But, just going through this here, I mean, just gobs and gobs and gobs of legislation that could be heard. This is just today. This isn't for the week. This is just for today. So I'm scrolling through the list of all of the different bills that could be heard today in committees. And it's, my gosh, there's a lot. I'm not even halfway through the page scrolling. And this is the amount of stuff that could come up. Doesn't mean it's going to come up, but it could come up. So I'm going to do a search here. We're just going to search FOID, and there's 4 instances of it. All right, so 4 instances of the FOID card that could come up today for consideration. Let's take a look at some of those. One of them is from State Representative Daniel Didich, House Bill 19, and what it does is it's labeled as the FOID and Criminal CD Flamethrower. What does it say? It amends the FOID Card Act, requires a person to have a currently valid firearm owner's identification card issued in his or her name by the Illinois State Police in order to acquire or possess a flamethrower. It exempts military, law enforcement, and other specified persons. It defines flamethrower, and it amends the criminal code and so on. So it provides that it's a class 4 felony to deliver a flamethrower to a person incidental to a sale without withholding delivery of the flamethrower for at least 72 hours after application for its purchase has been made. So if you want to go get a flamethrower, apparently Daniel Didich wants you to have a FOID card and also a waiting period, 72 hours. 72-hour waiting period for a flamethrower. Another measure, State Representative Maura Hirschauer has a measure we've seen before. This is House Bill 3692, and it involves fingerprints for FOID cards. So it amends the FOID Card Act, provides that each applicant for the issuance or renewal, rather than only the issuance of a firearm owner ID card, shall, rather than may, provide a full set of the applicant's fingerprints in electronic formats to the Illinois State Police. So, prohibits a live scan fingerprint vendor from charging more than $30, so it sets the fees there. So essentially, we've seen this pop up before, and if this ultimately passes, you're going to ask for law-abiding people who go through the process of getting a FOID card to provide their fingerprints. Something that's done for certain jobs, sure, okay, and security, in law enforcement, things like that, okay. You might have to provide fingerprints and background checks and such, but for just a regular law-abiding person who wants to keep a firearm in their home for protection, again, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I think some people are likely to argue requiring law-abiding citizens who aren't criminals, not arrested, to provide fingerprints, something that people who are arrested and charged with crimes do, and they're put into the criminal database. Asking them to do that, I imagine people are going to argue that that's an infringement. So this is an issue that's going to be possibly before a judiciary committee today in Illinois, in the House, later on this afternoon. So we'll be watching that measure as well pretty closely here. Let's see what else we've got lined up on the FOID card front. Lisa Davis has a measure about FOID non-violent felony. This could come up in the House Judiciary Committee. Let's read through this one. It says that the Firearm Owner ID Card Act is amended, requires each applicant for a FOID card to submit evidence to the Illinois State Police that the applicant has not been convicted of a felony, unless the applicant's been granted a certificate of relief from disabilities, in which case the applicant shall submit a certified copy of the certificate of relief along with his or her application. Defines the term forcible felony and allows the Illinois State Police to deny an application for or revoke and seize a firearm owner's ID card if the person is or was convicted of a felony, unless the offense was not a forcible felony and the person has received a certificate of relief from disabilities. So another measure impacting the FOID card and who could possibly have their FOID card or have a FOID card revoked. So that's up for consideration in the House Judiciary Committee. Now, I want to be sure to make this clear. Just because a bill has been put into committee doesn't mean it's going to be heard in that committee when the committee's scheduled. It could mean that, the legislator says, the bill's not ready yet. We're not even going to hear it. Or the legislator's absent and they're not going to be able to discuss the bill. Happens all the time. Bills in committee sometimes just don't get heard. But they do have a deadline for Friday to get bills out of committee. So that's another measure that could pop up. Then we've got a Republican measure here in the House Judiciary Committee from State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer, House Bill 1318. What this does, it amends the Firearms Owner ID Card Act, provides a firearm owner's identification card shall expire on the cardholder's birthday, occurring immediately after the 10-year period from the date of issuance. It amends the Firearm Concealed Carry Act, provides that a concealed carry license shall expire on the licensee's birthday, occurring immediately after the 5-year period of the date of issuance. So essentially just lining up the FOID card expiration dates with an individual's birthday. You've got a lot of different things you've got to, make sure that you hit those deadlines, right? 2 years in a row, I'll fully admit, I neglected to update my license plates. And then it wasn't until a friend said, "Yo, Bishop, your license plate's expired." And I'm like, what? The same thing happened last year. I forgot to update my license plate whenever September came around. I wasn't thinking about it. It's not when my birthday is. I've got a driver's license that's getting ready to expire here for my birthday. I got to go get that renewed. And I know it expires on my birthday, so I need to go get it renewed before my birthday. So maybe, there could be some interesting conversation about that bill that's in the House Judiciary Committee. So these are just a few of the bills that are going to be possibly heard today in various committees, and there's tons of other things that are going to be popping off as well. Obviously, with that Friday deadline, makes things interesting for the State House when they get stuff together to move forward, advance legislation, and possibly get these things on the House floor where they will then vote on them and have debate about them. But that's just a small portion of the just mountain of bills that could be heard today at the State House. If you want this kind of reporting regularly, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with the Center Square here on YouTube. Get the newsletter in your inbox. Go to thecentersquare.com/Illinois. Hit the subscribe button. Get the newsletter, and it can be in your inbox. And if you can't be with us each and every weekday morning here live for Illinois in Focus, you can get the podcast. Just search Illinois in Focus, and you'll find it. cats and cows, the subject of legislation filed at the Illinois Capitol. And one of those could be heard today in committee. Welcome in. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday morning, keeping you posted of what's going on here in Illinois, the land of Lincoln. So last segment, we talked about various pieces of legislation that could come up today and the various committees that there are this afternoon. And those deal with firearms. But there's tons of other bills out there that could come up today. But let's look at this story Jim Talamonte put together. Dogs, cats, and cows, the subject of legislation filed at the Illinois Capitol. And it talks about a bill from State Representative Barbara Hernandez that would essentially say that, you've got restriction on euthanasia in shelters. She said that she cares a lot about animals and wants to make sure that we protect them from unfortunate surgeries. You've got other legislation. This will be heard today. Jennifer Sanalitro, a Republican from Hanover Park, has House Bill 1902, which would require breeders to genetically test dogs, canines, and genetic defects of diseases that cause early death. And if that's the case, then they would be sterilized. Curtis Tarver, Chicago Democrat, has a bill to ban dogs under the age of 8 weeks from being brought into Illinois. There's another bill that Tarver has, which would require dogs and cats undergo a veterinary exam if they're imported into Illinois. You've got a bill from Julie Morrison, Democrat from Lake Forest, a state senator, that would amend the Animal Control Act to provide regarding an examination for rabies and an exemption for rabies in some cases. We mentioned this yesterday, and it got an interesting reaction from the live listeners and viewers. State Senator Rachel Ventura has Senate Bill 45 that would essentially ban the practice of pulling cowtails. She posted an explanation on her website stating that rodeos have long been a cornerstone of cultural heritage, and as we honor and cherish tradition, it's crucial to ensure the welfare of animals remains at the forefront of rodeo practices. While many rodeo events adhere to ethical standards, there's a growing concern over certain practices, including the controversial act of tail pulling in bovines. So, again, that's just a focus on the dogs and stuff and cats and cows. But there's tons of other legislation that's going to come up today, possibly. All right. I'm just going to go through a few of these. You've got Justin Slaughter, who helped make the Safety Act a thing. He's got a bill about law enforcement arrest quotas. House Bill 3617 could come up in committee today. What this does, it amends the county's code, provides that law enforcement officers may not be required to issue a specific number of citations within a designated period of time. And, meet a quota, right? This is something that gets pretty controversial from time to time when people are like, oh, you're just pulling me over because you need to meet a quota. It's the end of the month. There's lots of cops out now, and they're pulling people over. So interesting conversation they may have in the Judiciary Committee. Slaughter has another one that could be heard this afternoon in the Judiciary Committee about body cam requests. Let's take a look at this one. The synopsis of House Bill 3380 says that limits disclosures of a recording made when the use of an officer ward body camera, which is flagged due to filing a complaint, discharge of a firearm, use of force, arrest or detention, or resulting death or bodily harm to a request be made by court order. A person involved in the encounter that results in the recording being flagged, and a legal representative of a person involved in the encounter as a result of the recording being flagged, and a witness to the encounter that resulted in the recording being flagged, and several other things. Or a representative of news media. So looks like it's limiting the disclosure of such recordings to only certain classes of people. So body cam footage, very popular. Very, very popular. Whenever we get body cam footage, it's clearly something that a lot of people want to see. These types of interactions where body cam footage gets out are typically the, most harrowing, edge of your seat type of things. I mean, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, we saw body cam footage of a shootout at a gas station in central Illinois from some suspects who did an armed robbery down in Texas. And the guy who apparently was firing at police at this gas station thought he stopped a bullet. Pretty remarkable. But so we could see some interesting conversation there. Another piece of legislation that could come up today in the Environment Committee is single-use plastic foodware. This coming from State Representative Janet Yang Rohr. What this would do is it provides that a food dispensing establishment may provide single-use foodware only upon request of a customer or a self-service station. Specifies that food dispensing establishments shall provide options for consumers to affirmatively request single-use foodware when ordering food and beverages for delivery or takeout across all ordering or point-of-sale platforms, including internet-based applications, digital platforms, phone orders, and such. This then gets into a whole host of other things where we've seen similar types of legislation being filed. One of my colleagues, Katrina Barker, put this story together about a slew of different proposals. You can see this at thecentersquare.com. You've got the National Federation of Independent Business opposing some of these measures, saying it's just going to add on to the cost of doing business. And even measures that are trying to get school districts to try to essentially do away with those types of things. But what about some of the other measures that could come up? There's tons of them. I mean, we were scrolling through just scores and scores and scores of the bills that are in committee today that could come up. And all of these, it's not guaranteed they will, but they could. So if you want this type of preview of sorts, then be sure to get it here with Illinois in Focus Daily each and every weekday morning with the Center Square. All right, stay tuned. We've got some more things to tackle here, including we'll talk about a bill to try to take care of property taxes, a bill about overdose injection sites, and why not some talk about pensions as well. So we'll wrap things up next in the final segment here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Pensions and property taxes. Some of the things that taxpayers in Illinois know all about, but doesn't seem to be the main focus of state legislators as they continue on with spring session. Will there be a focus on property taxes and pensions? It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning, and join us for Illinois in Focus Daily. Let's start with pensions. $140 billion unfunded liability. That's just for the state's 5 public sector pension funds. And they tried to address this with a tier 2. This was for employees hired after 2011, lower benefits. Hopefully they were looking to try to stave off some of the increased costs from tier 1 that had 3% compounding annual increases in their pensions. But you also had essentially fully taxpayer subsidized health care for state retirees. And it was not just state retirees. This was also for local governments and those in the public safety space, like firefighters and police officers and municipal workers and so on. So it's not just the state level that's impacted by tier 1 and tier 2. It's also the local government. And you're the taxpayer funding all of it, right? You're the taxpayer that's paying into the state's taxes with your income tax, the state sales tax with your sales tax dollars. You're also paying your property taxes, which goes to local school districts, which goes to your municipality, your village, your township, your library district, your community college district. Look at your tax bill, and you'll see just 5, 6, 7, 8 mosquito abatement district. You'll see all of that. So the pensions have been a major problem for years, right? 14 years ago, they started up tier 2 pensions with fewer benefits. But for months now, there have been conversations about, essentially increasing the benefits for tier 2 because they feel that It's not going to be in line with equivalent Social Security benefits. And federal law says if you have a Social Security replacement plan, it has to be equivalent. If it's not, then you're going to run into problems. Last month, Andrew Bodavies, he is with the Teachers Retirement System. He's a lobbyist with TRS. TRS is the state's largest public sector pension fund. It's only about 45% funded. Think about that. They don't have enough to pay the bill if it was to come due today. Actuaries and investment advisors, you can find that say you're supposed to be 100% funded, but the TRS system is only 45% funded. But Davies talks about the concerns they have, not necessarily about the funding level, but about possibly being penalized by the federal government for not having Tier 2 pension benefits be equivalent to what that individual would get with Social Security benefits.
That not being a part of Social Security, we do that because we are a Social Security replacement plan. There is ongoing concern whether we will be able to, in the long term, maintain that Social Security replacement status with the Tier 2 benefit structure not complying with the plain language of the federal law on what they require you to offer in benefits and be a Social Security replacement plan.
So, but Davies talking about the concerns they have of not, matching that Social Security benefit. A legislator asked during that committee hearing last month, well, how many in TRS are actually running afoul with this?
I don't know I don't know that I have. I don't know that I haven't. We've had conversations with our actuaries. It is reasonable to assume that we will, and that we will in the relatively short-term future.
So they may. They don't know that for a fact, but they have actuaries that say, well, it could. And a lot of that, Bo Davies said, was because maybe the local school district, the employer, which there's 800 plus school districts in the state, maybe they're not communicating that to the TRS quite yet, but they fully anticipate that it's going to happen soon with Tier 2 employees that are going to be found to not be in the equivalency of Social Security. Well, State Representative Stephen Reich, who's on some of these pension committees, he got up on the House floor last week and talked about a budget line item in the governor's proposed budget that he has a problem with.
In his budget, he allocated $78 million to increase the state's contribution to the pension plan by $78 million to address the issue of the Social Security wage base here in Illinois and our possible, the fact that we're possibly going to be out of compliance with that, which is going to cost a bloody fortune.
So Reich talking about a budget line item, $73 million that one of his staffers found. And he also went on to talk about how that staffer went out and found a report from Siegel, financial analysts, and they looked at a variety of different pension funds, and they're like, well, it could be, you might need just $78 million to increase the benefits for these Tier 2 employees because it's not going to match with Social Security. But Reich went on to discuss how that report was not fully looking at all of what needs to happen here.
$78 million. So the governor took that number, slapped it in his budget, and made that this year's amount that is going to increase the pension contribution in order to satisfy the Social Security wage base. However, here's the rest of the story. The rest of the story is the fact that the Siegel report only covers 3 pension plans. It covers teachers, state employees, and state university retirement system. It doesn't cover judges. It doesn't cover the General Assembly pension plan, nor does it cover the Chicago Teachers Pension Fund, which also we are on the hook for making these types of contributions for. Also, there are 12 other pension plans throughout Illinois which are affected by this very same issue. So somewhere along the line, the governor thinks that $78 million that he plucked out of a report without reading what the report actually was about is the amount that's going to fix the Social Security wage-based problem. Unfortunately, the governor didn't read the next page of the analysis, and again, this is only on the for the purposes of the 3 plans that were part of the thing. Tier 2 salary cap to Social Security wage base state contributions through fiscal year 2045, $6.12 billion with a B dollars. $78 million is going to cover this year's Social Security wage base amounts for the 3 plans that are in the analysis. We're probably going to have to double that when we look at the other plans that we're on the hook for, and not to mention the fact that somebody's got to pay for the Social Security wage base adjustment out of those other 12 plans, and who's going to be responsible for that money? The taxpayers of Illinois.
So Reich laying out that the Siegel report, while it said $73 million for 3 specific pension funds, you've got other funds that, when added, probably are going to have to double that just for this fiscal year in the increase of pensions. And the overall cost over 2045 is going to be more than $6 billion. Why is it this way? Well, because look at the latest report from the Auditor General. This came out back in January, and we talked about this then. But it lays out the funding ratio. We're only 46% funded across all 5 of the state's pension funds, the worst being the General Assembly Pension Fund at 24.6%. 24.6%. Where then you get the teacher's retirement system about 46%. But overall, of the 5 funds, $140 billion of unfunded liability, 46% funded. You talk to some financial planners, and they're like, that's just pretty abysmal. One of the things that's driving the cost of the property taxes in the state is pensions, especially when you get to the local level, right? School districts, municipalities. Having covered the Springfield City Council here in Springfield for years, don't follow it nearly as closely as I used to when I was on, traditional terrestrial radio. But they would talk every year, every budget year. They'd be like, listen, all of our property taxes that we get from taxpayers is going to fund pensions. And it's not getting better. So you've got it on the state level, you've got it on the local level, you've got it on the public safety level with police and firefighters as well. In some areas, other areas doing all right. But you've got the ongoing concern that property taxes are driving high costs for Illinois taxpayers, second highest property taxes in the country. And that's why State Representative Dan Ugasti, he says, listen, there's a fire in Illinois. We're on fire. Here he is from last week talking about how there needs to be a focus on property taxes because it's too high.
Illinois and its economy is like a large building. Let's say the 5th largest building in the United States. And it's on fire. And that fire's been burning for a while. The Democrat supermajority that runs this state are firefighters, and Republicans are too. However, the Democrats are the ones with the keys to the firehouse, and they won't let us in so we can use the equipment we have inside to put out the fire. And still, the bigger problem, at some point, this is going to be a 5-alarm fire, and we will not be able to put it out before it burns to the ground.
So he's got an idea where he says the state budget, which the governor proposed $55 billion. Several years ago, pensions took up a quarter of every dollar. All right, so every $1, rather every $4 of the state tax dollars that they take from state taxpayers, $1 went to pensions. So a quarter of the state budget was going to pensions. Right now, it's about 20% of the state budget is going to go to pensions. What Ugasti is proposing is, why don't we just make that 25%? And then you make the statutorily required pension payments, which, again, when it's 46% funded, people are looking at that saying, no, you need to get that to 100% funded. But regardless, he says, take that 25%, make your statutorily required pension payments, which could only be 20%, and then take the remainder of that, so it could be 5% of the budget, give it back to school districts, but the school districts that get that money, tell them to lower their property tax levy. So that's Ugasti's idea. Will it actually happen? Not too sure, because Democrats, they've started a working group. A working group at the State House is a closed-door meeting of partisan members of the Democrat Party. They don't let Republicans in. And you have a working group that's going to look at pensions. But you also have the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and I believe the Department of Revenue. They've got a committee that they're going to be looking at property taxes as well, but this comes after a 2019 property tax task force to look at it that never produced a report. It was a failure by many who watched and were part of that. So, are we just going to be talking about pensions? Are we actually going to have substantive legislation to address not pensions but property taxes, which could be directly associated with the cost of pensions as well? But to the fire analogy that Ugasti said, he said it's almost a 5-alarm fire, but State Representative Joe Sosnowski from Rockford, a Republican, said it's already there.
I would disagree slightly. It is a 5-alarm fire right now, because look at other states growing. We lose congressional seats. Other states are growing dramatically. States around us, same weather, grow 1% a year. So it's a huge problem right now, and we're chasing more and more people out of Illinois if we don't address it immediately.
How is it going to be addressed? We'll be watching, obviously, in focus here with the Center Square. It is Illinois in focus. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning. Really enjoy seeing the live chat, as vibrant as it is. If you get a chance, you can go and check that out in the mornings. A lot of conversation all over the place. And we didn't even really scratch the surface of all that could happen today at the Illinois State House. All right, get the headlines in your inbox.
Illinois and its economy.
Yeah. Oh, we already heard that. All right, so get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. Click newsletter, subscribe, find the podcast where you find podcasts at, just search Illinois in Focus. All right, have a great day. All I got for you on this Tuesday. Hopefully you're better informed going into your day. And listen, I'd encourage you to not just like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell here, but send the link to a friend, family member. Tell them, hey, you live in Illinois. It's a great, quick show that you can be able to stay plugged into what's going on. You can get the podcast where you get podcasts. Don't forget, free newsletter with all the headlines. Go to thecentersquare.com. We don't charge anything. We don't have paywalls. All right, so you can go get the latest news, see what's going on at the Illinois State House, so you can stay plugged in with how your tax dollars are being used. Again, thecentersquare.com. It's not just Illinois, it's across the country. We've got reporters in Washington, D.C. and beyond. So go check that out, all right? And also look at all the other videos that we've got with The Center Square here on YouTube. Interesting one today I saw out of Arizona. They've got artificial intelligence reporters for Arizona's Supreme Court. Apparently from the Supreme Court. I guess we're in the future. All right, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. Have a great Tuesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.